The room was dimly lit, the scent of expensive cologne and lavender filling the air as Lila's breath came in shallow gasps. She had never felt anything like this before. This raw connection, this undeniable pull. She was pressed against the softness of the silk sheets, the brothers' bodies surrounding her like a storm she couldn't escape. "Let go," Kyungsoo whispered against her ear, his breath hot on her skin. His hands were gentle, guiding her through the sensations she wasn't sure she was ready for, but couldn't seem to resist. Every touch was a promise, a contract that was written not just on paper but in her very soul. She had signed her fate away when she agreed to marry them, but this was real. No matter how she tried to fight it, she couldn't deny the way her body responded to them, how she longed for them in a way that was both terrifying and thrilling. This wasn't just a marriage for convenience, not anymore. But hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss out on more intense stories like this. Stick with us to the end. I promise you won't want to miss what's coming. Lila's fingers trembled as they traced the outline of Kyungsoo's jaw, the intensity of the moment too much to ignore. Her mind screamed that this was wrong, that she shouldn't feel the heat coursing through her veins, the desperate need for more. But her body betrayed her, arching toward him, pulling him closer, needing him in ways she couldn't understand. She had come to this city for a single reason, to save her family, and she had done it. They were free from debt. Her father's hospital bills were taken care of, her brother's education was secured, everything was in place. But this had not been part of the plan. Her eyes flickered toward the other two brothers. Seojin stood at the edge of the bed, his gaze dark with hunger, watching them intently, silently urging her on. Jinwoo, the eldest, was pacing near the window, his expression unreadable, as if he were fighting his own internal battle. Both of them wanted her. She knew it. But what did she want? What was she really getting herself into? She had never signed up for this. She had signed a contract, yes, but not for this kind of connection. This kind of feeling. Kyungsoo's lips brushed against her ear, his voice a low murmur. "You can fight it, Lila, but you won't win. We'll make you feel things you've never felt before, and you'll crave it." Her heart hammered in her chest as he slowly, deliberately slid his fingers down her neck, tracing the delicate curve of her collarbone. His touch was light, but the heat from his hand lingered long after he had pulled away. Lila tried to breathe, tried to push down the conflicting emotions flooding her mind. She had never been with a man before, not like this. She had always kept herself guarded, focused on the future, on making sure her family was safe. But now she wasn't sure what was happening. All she knew was the pull of their touch, the way they made her feel alive and wanted in ways she couldn't explain. Jinwoo's voice interrupted her thoughts. "You're not a contract, Lila. You're not a business transaction. You're our wife, and we're going to show you what that means." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of his meaning. But it wasn't just his words. It was the look in his eyes, the intensity in his stare. She was a part of something now, whether she liked it or not. Seojin moved closer, kneeling at the edge of the bed, his hands caressing her legs with slow, purposeful strokes. "Let us take care of you," he said softly, his voice laced with a warmth that made her heart beat faster. "Let us show you what it means to be ours." But how could she belong to them? She didn't know them. She didn't even know herself at that moment. All she knew was the desire curling in her belly, the way her body was reacting to their closeness, their touch. Her breath hitched as Seojin leaned in, kissing her softly on the lips, a kiss that was tender and yet demanding. She froze for a second, unsure, but then she kissed him back, her body responding to the heat that was building between them. Jinwoo stepped closer, his hand resting on her shoulder as he leaned down to kiss her forehead. "This is what we're offering, Lila," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. "All of us, all of you." Lila pulled away, her heart racing, her thoughts spinning. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. She had signed the contract, yes, but this? This isn't just a contract, Kyungsoo said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's a promise that will take care of you, protect you, a promise that will make this real. The weight of his words hung in the air, and Lila realized with a start that it was true. There was no going back now. This wasn't just about family debts or obligations. This was about something else entirely, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. But as the brothers' hands slid down her body, as their kisses deepened and their touch grew more urgent, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she didn't need to be ready. Maybe she just needed to feel, to surrender. Lila's breath quickened as Seojin's lips trailed down her neck, the heat of his touch sending jolts of electricity through her body. She could feel her pulse thumping in her ears, the sensation of him against her skin both terrifying and exhilarating. Her heart raced in a mix of fear, desire, and confusion. Was this really happening? Was she really here with 3 men who had claimed her as theirs, not just by a piece of paper, but by their eyes, their hands, their words? Lila, Seojin whispered, his breath warm against her skin. Don't fight this. Don't fight us. She didn't respond at first, her mind in a whirlwind of emotions. But before she could think clearly, Kyungsoo was there, his lips pressing against hers, his kiss soft, patient, different from the fiery heat Seojin had given her. His hands were gentle as they cupped her face, his thumb brushing over her lips as if memorizing the feel of her. We won't force you, Kyungsoo murmured between kisses, but we need you to trust us. You don't have to be afraid. Fear. That's all she felt. Fear of the unknown, fear of what she had signed up for. But beneath the fear, something else was bubbling up, something she couldn't quite place, something her body was betraying her for. Her hands slid up his chest, feeling the warmth of his skin through his shirt. She was pulled in, deeper than she'd expected, drawn into this strange, intoxicating web they were weaving around her. Stop, she whispered, pulling away from Kyungsoo's lips, her breath ragged as she struggled to make sense of everything. I don't understand. This wasn't what I agreed to. You agreed to a marriage, Lila. Jinwoo's voice cut through the tension in the air, firm and commanding. He stepped forward, his presence undeniable, his gaze intense. But what we're offering is more than just that. We've given you our vows. This is real. We're all in this together. Lila swallowed hard. She knew the terms of the contract. She had read them, signed them, agreed to them. But nothing could have prepared her for the reality of this intimacy, this closeness, this undeniable attraction that was threatening to undo her resolve. She was supposed to be strong. She was supposed to be in control. But here, with them, surrounded by the warmth of their bodies and the intensity of their eyes, she was starting to feel like she was losing herself. Don't be afraid, Kyungsoo whispered again, his fingers gently tracing the curve of her jaw. We won't hurt you, but we need you to let go, to feel this with us. The words sounded sincere, but her heart hammered in her chest. She wanted to trust them, wanted to trust him, but there was a part of her that couldn't let go of the fear, the uncertainty of it all. Let's take it slow, Seojin said, his voice a low murmur against her ear as he pulled her into his arms, holding her close. We'll go at your pace. Just tell us what you need, and we'll listen. Lila closed her eyes, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She couldn't believe this was happening. She couldn't believe she had allowed herself to fall into this. But as Seojin held her, his hands steady and warm, something inside her shifted. It was subtle at first, but it was there, a crack in the armor she'd built around herself. Maybe, just maybe, she could trust them. She had no choice. Her family's future rested on this, and her father's life depended on her willingness to follow through. There was no way out, no easy way to escape this reality she had chosen, this web they were trapping her in. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Okay, let's go slow. The moment the words left her lips, the brothers seemed to relax, their hands softening their touches, their gazes less demanding, more patient. But the air around them was thick with anticipation. Good girl, Jinwoo murmured, his hand resting on her shoulder, his touch steady and reassuring. You're safe here, Lila. We won't push you, but we will make you feel things you've never felt before. Her body reacted against her will, her chest tightening, her breath catching as they continued to caress her, their touches gentle but firm, coaxing her into surrender. But no matter how gentle they were, no matter how slowly they moved, she couldn't shake the fear. This wasn't just about her family anymore. This was about something deeper, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. As Seojin kissed her neck again, his lips warm against her skin, she closed her eyes, surrendering to the sensations. There was no turning back now. This wasn't just a contract. This was her reality. Kyungsoo stepped back, his eyes flicking to Jinwoo and Seojin. A silent conversation passed between them, and then Jinwoo gave a single nod. They had all agreed that this night would be different. They would give her space, but they wouldn't let her escape the bond they were weaving around her. They were playing with fire, each touch, each kiss, adding fuel to the flames. Lila felt the tension in the room, felt the heat between them, between her and them. She tried to push it away, to keep her thoughts clear, but every time she moved, every time they touched her, it became harder to think, harder to resist. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. I need to understand. What is this? What do you want from me? Jinwoo stepped forward, his expression softening as he knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. What we want from you, Lila, he said, his voice low and steady, is everything. You've already given us your commitment. Now, we need you to give us your trust. She swallowed hard, trying to gather her thoughts. Trust? How could she trust them? How could she give them everything when she wasn't even sure she knew who they truly were? You're not just a contract, Lila, Seojin added softly, moving to kneel on the other side of her. You're our wife. You belong to us now, and we belong to you. This is more than just a business arrangement. This is real. Real. The word echoed in her mind, the weight of it pressing down on her chest. Could this really be real? Could she really become part of their world? Her thoughts were a whirlwind, but the warmth of their bodies around her was undeniable. The connection, the bond, they were offering it all, and in return, she had only her family's future to give. But could she do it? She didn't know. But hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss out on more intense stories like this. Stick with us to the end. I promise you won't want to miss what's coming. Lila's heart raced as Jinwoo's hands moved down her arms, his touch slow, deliberate. She could feel every inch of her body reacting to him, to the closeness of all three of them, and it was overwhelming. She had agreed to this. She had chosen this path. But now? Now, she wasn't sure she was ready for what was coming next. Take a breath, Kyungsoo whispered, his hand resting on her shoulder as he guided her back against the soft pillows of the bed. His eyes softened as he looked at her. We'll go at your pace, Lila. But remember, you're not alone. The promise in his words was both comforting and terrifying. They weren't just going to claim her. They were going to make her belong to them. All of them. And once that happened, would she be able to walk away? Lila's mind raced as the brothers settled around her. Their hands, their eyes, they were everywhere, moving slowly, deliberately, as if everything was planned, every touch calculated. She felt trapped, caught in their web, but at the same time, something in her responded to them. She couldn't deny it. The attraction was undeniable, even though every fiber of her being screamed for her to stop, to get up and run. But she couldn't. Not now.
Not after everything she had agreed to. Seojin's fingers traced along her collarbone, his touch light but firm, igniting a fire deep inside her. His lips were at her ear now, soft, teasing, as he whispered, "Relax, Lila. You're safe with us. We'll take care of you."
Her breath hitched at the words, her body betraying her as the heat between her legs became impossible to ignore. She couldn't understand why she was reacting this way, why her body was responding to them, to their touch, when her mind screamed for her to resist. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can do this." "We'll make it easy for you," Kyungsoo said, his voice soothing, like a balm on the raw nerves that ran through her. "You won't have to do anything you don't want to, but trust us. This is what you need." Jinwoo stepped closer, his expression softer than before, though the intensity in his eyes remained. "What you need, Lila," he said, "is to trust us, to let go of the fear, the doubt. We're asking for your trust. We're not asking for your submission. That's all." She felt their eyes on her, 3 pairs of dark, hungry eyes. She swallowed hard, trying to keep the tears at bay. She had signed up for this. She had agreed to the marriage, to the contract, but this was more than she had ever expected. Seojin's hand slid down her arm, his fingers brushing over the thin strap of her nightgown. His touch was gentle, but there was an undeniable hunger in the way he looked at her, a desire that made her pulse quicken despite herself. "Let us show you what it means to be ours," he said, his voice low and enticing. The words struck something deep within her, and for the first time since she had entered this world, she didn't feel quite so alone. The brothers were right there with her, each one offering something different, something she couldn't quite name yet, but in that moment, they felt like safety, comfort, protection. "Lila," Kyungsoo murmured, cupping her face with his warm hands. But was that enough? "You have to let go. You don't have to be scared. We're here for you." Her breath caught in her throat as Kyungsoo leaned in, his lips brushing against her forehead, soft and tender. She closed her eyes, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume her. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I'm scared." "You don't have to be scared," Jinwoo said, his voice calm, reassuring. "We're not like the others. We won't hurt you. We'll make sure you're ready." Seojin's hand slid to the back of her neck, gently pulling her toward him. The moment their lips met, Lila froze for just a second before kissing him back, her body betraying her yet again. The kiss was slow at first, tentative, as if they were both testing the waters. But as the seconds passed, it deepened, the intensity rising, their mouths moving in a rhythm that felt both foreign and familiar. Jinwoo watched them with an unreadable expression, but his hands never left her shoulders. His touch was constant, grounding her as she lost herself in Seojin's kiss. And then, without warning, Kyungsoo's lips were on her neck, sending a shiver down her spine. His touch was gentle, tender, as though he were savoring every second. "Let go, Lila," he murmured against her skin. "Trust us." But could she? Could she trust them? After everything she had learned, everything they had shown her, was it possible to believe that this marriage, this arrangement, was real? It was too late to back out now, and part of her didn't want to. As the kisses continued, as the brothers surrounded her, she realized that she didn't want to run anymore. She didn't want to hide from them. She wanted to feel. "I trust you," she whispered, barely able to form the words. Jinwoo's eyes softened as he stepped closer, his hand brushing through her hair. "That's all we need, Lila. That's all we've ever wanted." Lila's body was trembling as the brothers pulled back, their gazes never leaving her. For a moment, she was caught in the intensity of their stares, the way they looked at her, not as a prize, but as something more. something worth protecting, something real. Her heart was pounding in her chest, a chaotic rhythm she couldn't control. She had never felt anything like this pull between desire and fear, this connection to men she barely knew, but who somehow seemed to understand her in ways she never expected. "You're ours now," Seojin said, his voice thick with emotion. "And we're not letting you go." Lila's chest tightened, but the words didn't scare her. They didn't feel like a threat. They felt like a promise of something she didn't understand yet, but something she knew was undeniable. "We're going to take care of you," Kyungsoo added, his voice soft yet firm. "We're going to make sure you're happy, make sure you feel safe, but we need you to trust us, completely." Lila nodded, her throat dry. She didn't know if she was ready for what they were offering, but she was willing to try. She had no other choice. And in that moment, as they all stood there, each one waiting for her response, she realized that this was real. Her family's debts had been paid. Her father was safe. Her brother was set for his future. But this was the price she had to pay. But was it worth it? The next few days were a blur of uncertainty, desire, and tension. The brothers gave her space, but were never far from her. Every time she thought she had a moment to herself, one of them would appear, their eyes dark with unspoken intentions. They weren't rushing her. They were giving her time to adjust, to understand their world. But it wasn't just their world she had to navigate. It was hers, too. She had signed the contract, but every day that passed, every moment she spent with them, the more the lines between the business arrangement and something real began to blur. She could feel herself changing, piece by piece. The walls she had spent so long building around herself were starting to crumble. And the more she let them in, the more she realized that she wasn't just fighting for her family's survival anymore. She was fighting for herself, fighting to find out who she really was in this world they had brought her into.